Hello everyone, welcome to the course on Health Humanities, Indian and Western Medical Knowledge Traditions. This is lecture number 15 on Sushruta Samhita, the legacy of ancient Indian surgery. Here I will talk about how surgery has been practiced, how it has been studied, how doctors have been trained, and what are the instruments which have been used, the types of instruments, and different types of surgeries which have been done in the Indian context. So, in this lecture, I will talk about the structure of Sushruta Samhita, the surgical instruments, their types, forms, shapes. Then I'll talk about surgical experiences and training of surgeons. Then who are good surgeons? What are the key contributions of Sushruta Samhita? When we look at the text Sushruta Samhita, it is seen as one of the oldest texts in the field of medicine and surgery. It has established the system of surgery in India. And the text is attributed to C. Sushruta, who is known as the father of surgery. And this text is a broader corpus of Ayurveda. When we look at the historical time frame of this text, it is very debatable. And some of them consider that it is going back to 250 BCE, and some consider 600 BCE. Some go even further. So there is like a debate about when this text was composed. And about Sushruta, he is a legendary physician of ancient India, talks about the holistic healing and ethical practices of medicine. When we think about Sushruta Samhita, its structure, this book is having this text is divided into 5 books, having 186 chapters, and it has 1120 medical conditions. It covers over 1120 medical conditions and surgical procedures. It talks about 700 medical plants, their medicinal gurus. It talks about 64 preparations from mineral sources and 57 medicines prepared from animal sources. When we look at the structure of this book, it has two main parts. One is called Purva Tantra, which has 5 Subtantra, and then one is Uttar Tantra, which deals with a more specialized topic of surgical procedures. However, there are some critics, some thinkers and philosophers, commentators, who argue that Uttar Tantra Uttar means later, or Uttar Tantra means the later compendium, has been added by other thinkers, other commentators, and it is not the original text of Sushruta. Purva Tantra, which has 5 subsections, and they are Sutra Sthana. Sutra Sthana deals with the fundamental principles of surgery, how to train the surgeons. It talks about surgical instruments, knives, scissors, and other instruments, tools. It talks about surgical procedures and divisions of medicines. Second, Tantra, which is called Nidan. It focuses on the etiology, pathogenesis, and clinical feature of various diseases, including surgical and non-surgical conditions. It talks about cure, it talks about treatments in different ways. And then third one, Sarir Asthana. It talks about human anatomy, physiology, and provides detailed description of body parts, organs, systems, how they work, and then how they can be treated when they get some kind of disease, how they can be surgically operated, And what are the methods, what are the procedures of the surgeries of different body parts. Then Chikitsa Asthana. It describes different therapeutic methods, including medical and surgical management of diseases. Kalpasthana, it deals with the preparations of medical plants, minerals, and animal products which are used in Ayurvedic treatments. It's also called drugs, which have been prepared by using plants, minerals, animal products, and different types of materials available with Susruta. The surgical instruments which Susruta discusses in his Samhita, he talks about 20 knives which are used for different surgeries. For different types of surgeries, he talks about different types of instruments and tools. He refers the circle tip knife, the hand saw, the big leaf knife, the nail knife, the ring knife, the lotus knife, the single east, the needle, the grass leaf, the black ibis beak, the scissor bill beak, the interior tip, the triple brush, the little axe, the rice tip, the owl, the rattan leaf, the hook, the tooth spike, and the probe. So these 20 types of knives are used for different types of surgeries, for different body parts. For example, these knives are used for cutting, scraping, splitting, releasing fluid. For example, to release fluid, maybe the needle knife can be used. A single edged can be used. For piercing, they are used for piercing, extraction, suturing, probing, and rearranging. So he talks about like there are certain knives which can be holded from the center, some of them from the root, and like which finger to use to hold which knife. He talks about different shapes and sizes of the knives for different body part surgeries. Then he talks about good and bad knives. And the good knives are those which actually do not have any kind of infections. And sorry, good knives are which do not carry any kind of infections, and bad knives can create infections. And this has been documented and arranged by Dominic in his study of the roots of Ayurveda. The training of future surgeons and surgical experiences in his book, The Roots of Ayurveda, by simplifying, summarizing Susruta Samhita. Susruta talks about different learning methods of surgery. He talks about different methods of educating the young surgeons. He says that for splitting, the surgeons can use a leather water bag, bladder, or a pouch where they can practice splitting. For scratching, the surgeon can use stretched head with hair on it, and then they can use certain instruments to actually scratch it. For piercing, the duct of dead animals, lotus stalks can be used by the surgeons. It can be used by the young learners who are practicing, who are going to practice, who are going to learn surgery. For probing, the objects like bamboo tubes, wood reeds which are damaged by woodworms can be used. For extracting, the young surgeons can use teeth of dead animals, like how to take out the teeth from the dead animals, how to pluck out the fruits from jackfruit, and then marrow red gourds can be used. For suturing or for like stitching, the two edges of thin and thick cloth can be used, or two edges of soft leather can be used. For bandaging, the limbs of human damage can be used. For joining and wrapping of ear, the soft pieces of leather can be used. So it talks about like how different types of surgeries can be practiced, learned, and then carried forward. It talks about different materials, different objects which can be used. If animals are used, then they are dead. Or then there are like different objects which can be used. So we have some kind of moral and ethical aspect in the method of surgery as well. Then he talks about like who are good surgeons, and then he said like to become good surgeons, one has to witness the operations. So before practicing like surgeries operations, one has to witness it and they remember the process, and then one has to get the practical experiences which I described in the previous slide. By that, one has to actually practice it on different objects and learn it. Then one has to actually talk about the condition of the patient by diagnosing and by using one's five senses. So by like touching, by looking, and then by like certain kind of smells. So there's like a diagnosis by five senses are important. And then he talks about that good surgeons ask questions. They actually inquire from the patients their problems, and then how they feel, what is their medical condition, and then post surgery like what they think and how they find themselves. So there are like a number of conditions which Sushruta talks about good surgeons. The key contributions are in terms of surgical techniques, rhinoplasty, where he talks about repairing torn ear lobes, where he talks about repairing of surgeries of nose. Sushruta has talked about cataract surgery and operating of couching for cataract. It has contributed like in terms of like eye surgery. It has contributed in terms of extractions from the bodies. It has developed tools and instruments of surgeries which can help in the process of operations. And then he provides detailed descriptions of surgical instruments, items, like how they are made, how they are prepared, and how they are used. He talks about hygiene and wound care and how maintaining hygienes are necessary. Further, he talks about the use of antiseptics, the use of drugs, medicines which he has produced with the help of plants, with the help of animal products. Then he talks about post-operative care. So what we find over here that Sushruta has talked about in detail the procedures of surgery, the methods of surgery, the instruments of surgery, and how the people who have undergone surgeries have been taken care of. And this text is very important in the development of Ayurveda. It is one of the three major texts in the Ayurveda, and one is like number one is Atharvaveda, and then second one is Charak Samhita, and this is the third one. So this is called one of this forms the great trilogy of Ayurveda. It talks about balance of three dosas. It is similar to Charak Samhita, where there has to be balance between Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. It introduces dietary guidelines and lifestyle management for health. It talks about the medical features of food. And he says that food is rasa, essence, nutritive, and juice. And it can help to maintain one's health. He further discusses the role of Vata, wind and breath in escalating disease, and how they can cause disease. For example, like one is having some kind of bad smells in the nose, and then like how it can lead to some kind of nose infections. When we look at the impact of Sushruta Samhita, it has a global impact. It has inspired medieval Arabic and European medical surgeries. The translations of Sushruta Samhita in Arabic is Kitab-e Shrud in the 8th century, and it is seen as one of the ancient source of surgical knowledge worldwide. And this is like very important that that so many centuries before there's a like full development of the surgical process, the surgical methodologies. When we look at the legacy of this text, it is still relevant in Ayurvedic education and research. The revival of Sushruta surgical practices in modern plastic surgery are also important, and they are celebrated as India's ancient medical wisdom. To conclude, Sushruta Samhita showcases the advanced medical understanding of ancient India, and it provides a blend between science, spirituality, and ethics, and it has contributed to the global medical heritage of surgery. Further, when we think that medical knowledge in India is a Western import, then one has to decolonize the medical knowledge and reassert one's medical traditions, medical practices, surgical traditions and surgical practices. Thank you.